Here are the abandoned storylines Marvel's What If almost used. Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path, it's a prism of endless possibility, where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Well, unless of course you've already wrapped season 1 of your hypothetical animated anthology series on Disney+, because in that case, those possibilities end after 10 episodes. But what doesn't end is the endless speculation about what if could have been, especially because the creators behind the series love talking about that as well. While we're just a few hours away from finding out what the Marvel Cinematic Universe would have been like if T'Challa had been Star-Lord instead of Peter Quill, we're gonna look even deeper into the real-life multiverse to take a peek at what might have been. Speaking with Vanity Fair, What If director Brian Andrews and head writer AC Bradley revealed a number of storylines that were in various stages of development at one point or another, but ultimately abandoned for being too weird, too dark, or simply not fitting in with the rest of the season. Given that a season 2 is currently in the works, according to producer Brad Winderbaum speaking with IO9, these storylines could potentially make their way to Disney Plus at some point in the future. But for the time being, let us ponder what if these stories had actually happened. Now let's start with one of the most controversial storylines in comics. What if Captain America joined Hydra?
Hail Hydra.
And while the 2017 Secret Empire reveal involving the Red Skull altering Cap's memories ignited a firestorm in the comics world, this version would have asked a simple question. What if Steve Rogers had fallen off the train instead of Bucky Barnes during the first Avenger? Now, the story was going to follow Peggy Carter, Howard Stark, and Bucky Barnes teaming up to stop a brainwashed Steve Rogers, who'd become not just a soldier for this evil organization, but its leader, Captain Hydra. According to Bradley, the fun twist is that it would have been Red Skull who's now been replaced by Captain Hydra. They would have had to stop Steve Rogers and then make him remember who he really is. Fun twist though it may have been, it ultimately was scrapped in favor of the Captain Carter storyline instead. And speaking of alternate First Avengers stories, Brian Andrews revealed that very early on in the development process, they dreamed up a crossover from the Joe Johnston multiverse, having the Rocketeer team up with Cap and Peggy to fight Hydra and those pesky Nazis. Although Joe Johnston directed both the Rocketeer and Captain America the First Avenger, both released by Disney, this was apparently a bridge too far, so go ahead and shed one single Rocketeer for what might have been.
What's he talking about?
Oh yeah, I got it straight from the feds, Eddie. Nazi spy ring, flying commandos, it works.
And speaking of tears, Tony Stark, everybody! He's canonically dead now. Something that any comic fan knows is permanent, irreversible, and completely final. And look, we know that old Tony Stank is gonna make appearances throughout What If Season 1, but there were two Tony storylines that were ultimately scrapped. One would have paired Tony Stark with Hedy Lamar's favorite student, his dad Howard, in a riff on the young Indiana Jones Chronicles. The other was going to pair up Tony with Pepper Potts as this duo traveled through space in a much less depressing way than what we see Tony doing during Avengers Endgame. Now, according to Bradley, I pitched a big romantic space opera episode that was basically the Odyssey, but with Pepper and Tony. Now, unfortunately, we're never going to see a Space Clops or a Siren or Cersei in the MCU anytime soon, but we will get other Tony Stark tales to tide us over. And before you take to the comment section, I'm talking about a very different Cersei than the one we'll see in Eternals. It's spelled different. You can tell how I said it. Cersei. Obviously. Moving on, we come to perhaps my favorite of these abandoned storylines. What if Spider-Man actually turned into a spider? Equal parts Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis and David Cronenberg's The Fly, this really dark body horror story was really going to let Peter Parker do whatever a spider can by slowly turning him into this wretched abomination.
Hey, Freak Show!
Now, understandably, Marvel shot this idea down. But thankfully, the compromise was that in lieu of Peter Parker becoming the amazing Brundle Flighterman, we got Marvel Zombies instead. Bradley explained it like this. It would have been a hard R for a show that probably your kids will end up watching. It was a little too dark. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Can I do zombies? And they said, yes, you can do zombies. So remember that, folks. If you want a little zombie as a treat, make sure to pitch something infinitely more messed up first. And speaking of first, in other interviews, AC Bradley revealed that she had actually pitched a couple other ideas, like Jane Foster as Thor, and another plot that was ultimately scrapped because she was told they were already doing them in Thor Love and Thunder and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, respectively. So, really curious about that second one. But anyway, folks, there you have it. For even more details on these abandoned storylines, including one involving everyone's favorite god of mischief, Loki, make sure you head over to Vanity Fair and read their fantastic breakdown of what might have been. I'll drop a link to that article in the description below. And make sure you stay tuned for our full breakdown of the latest episodes of What If right here on Nerdist.com and on our YouTube channel each and every week. In the meantime, though, tell us, what do you think of this news? Which of these stories do you most want to see, and why? Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.